Listen, this is the day where we talk about the big stories of the week, and today all of them have to do with one of my favorite things. We are going to talk about country music. Morgan Wallen has a new album. Maren Morris has a new album. Lana Del Rey is maybe going country. The group chat's here. We have so much to get into. Let's go. I'm Elamin Abdelmahmoud, and this is Commotion, and a lot is going on in country music right now. I've got my own personal music crew with me right here. Andrea Williams is here, Carl Wilson is here, and for the first time on the show, Sarah Boesveld. Hello to all of you, and welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, I'm delighted. I'm a little bit too excited. I'm gonna have to calm myself down because there's so much to get to, and obviously, we have to start with this. Roll it.
I guess I'm the problem, and your mess never do no wrong. If I'm so awful, then why'd you stick around this long? And there fits the whiskey, and why you keep on pulling it off the shelf? You hate that when you look at me, you halfway see yourself, and it got me thinking.
That is Morgan Wallen with the title track of the new album, I'm the Problem. He's just saying it at this point. He's just going to be like, it's me, I'm the guy, I'm the problem. I don't think you need me to tell you who Morgan Wallen is or how big he is right now. But just for context, he's got 2 albums in the Billboard Top 10, not Top 40, not Top 100, 2 other albums. One of them came out in 2023. The other one came out way back in 2021. And they're still in the top 10. And then he just put out a 3rd album. It's presumably going to go straight to number 1. Also, I think it's fair to say he remains one of the most sort of problematic figures in country music. He draws a lot of attention. He does not go very long without a particularly bad headline. And I don't want to get into all of those things in just a moment. But first, Bosie, I'm going to start with you, if you don't mind. Also, I'm going to call you Bosie on the radio because we've known each other for a long time.
You can do that.
we are. This new album has 37 songs on it. Every one of his albums is incredibly long. You and I are, what do we say? We're tourists in God's country. We are frequent visitors.
We have a pretty consistent group text chat, you and I, about pretty much exclusively about Morgan Wallen.
Yeah, where we kind of go like, oh, he kind of did it again. Do you want to? Okay, let's talk about your relationship to Morgan Wallen and how this album is landing there.
Yeah, I think tourists in God's country is good. It's a good descriptor. I have tried to quit Morgan Wallen. I see the headlines. There's a lot of problematic stuff, which we will talk about. Yeah. But as a friend, another friend, actually, I do talk about Morgan Wallen with other people. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. Said he used the word inevitable, like Morgan Wallen is inevitable. And I think that it just captures it. He has a 37 song record, which again is not unusual for him. He might need an editor. That said, they are straight bangers. So many of them. You're like, I can imagine them going, no, I can't put that one on the cutting room floor. We need 2 hours and 3 minutes of Morgan Wallen. Yeah. And people are eating it up. And he has been a problematic figure. He has really self-styled himself as this outlaw. I think potentially by accident, because he's trying to find his way through being a young Southern man in the country music world, where young Southern men are actually quite embraced and adopted and loved and celebrated, coming up against a cultural moment where there has quite rightly been a lot of concern about some of those, and I'll call it white supremacist, patriarchal, racist behavior that has been dog whistled for so long. And now there's a lot of coming right out and saying it. So I do have a problematic relationship. There's a problem with my relationship with my Morgan Wallen fandom because I do appreciate a well-crafted song, a consistent songwriter. Somebody who owes a debt to Florida Georgia Line and Sam Hunt for innovations, which they owe a debt to many other artists before them, of course. And then also the country's sensibility and tone of voice and approach to songwriting that you could, point to Eric Church or Miranda Lambert for. So I just think it's a really interesting mix that he has. And I really have been stunned by his consistent output and appreciation despite the complexity of who he is and what he puts out there. So yeah, his persona is very interesting because I think with naming it, I'm the problem. it's defensive though, you know? Is he the problem? Is it country music, the industry? Is it all of us that's a problem? There's some interesting things to mind here, which I'm looking forward to hearing my fellow group chat members' thoughts on.
Well, I was gonna say the line actually resolves in "I'm the problem, but you might be the reason," and I think that itself is also revelatory. And also, this album ends with a song called "I'm a Little Crazy." Let's hear a little bit of that.
I keep a loaded 44 sitting by the bed for the jeepers and the creepers who ain't riding ahead. Hope I never have to use it, but you never know these days. I'm a little crazy, but the world's insane.
Once again, Carl, he's like, yeah, I might be a little crazy, but the problem is out there. The problem is the world. What sort of story do you think Morgan's trying to tell about himself on this record?
Yeah, I mean, there's been this defensive, ever since the incident, particularly in 2021, where he was caught on tape saying the N-word and apologized rapidly and took some steps to sort of reconcile, not enough by a lot of people's views, but at the same time took some steps. But ever since then, there's this sense that radiates off him that he's coming in unfairly for scrutiny and criticism compared to other people, which is what happens when you're one of the biggest celebrities in the world. It's just it makes sense. Taylor Swift deals the same line a lot of the time, and they've both got the I'm the problem, it's me syndrome going on both of these albums. But Wallen's way of coming at it is really still not reckoning with his own entitlement, and there's this kind of passive aggressive thing, and that it's not even directly addressed to his real world critics the way that Swift does. It's always personified by some woman that he's in a relationship with, which also sours a lot of the tone of a lot of the songs to me. I tend to compare him to Drake in the sense that there's this kind of certified lover boy side of him, and this whiny, I'm drunk or stoned in the middle of the night thinking about how I've been done wrong by this woman side of him, and it kind of alternates between those things. And I agree with Sarah about the voice and all of that. There's definitely strengths here, but I've always found him very hard to love.
Andrea, if I could, I'm gonna just run quickly down the laundry list of stuff that Morgan Wallen has sort of been in the headlines for, quite as quickly as I can. Back in 2020, he sort of openly flouted the COVID guidelines before he appeared on SNL. We were supposed to be in a bubble, and then he posted this video of him. Maybe he didn't post it. Maybe this video went around of him kissing random college girls a few days before he was supposed to go on SNL. In 2021, he was caught on video using the N-word. He's been arrested a couple times for disorderly conduct, including this incident where he threw a chair off the top of a rooftop patio, nearly hit a police officer. There was a meaningful question as to whether he would have to maybe actually serve time for that. Andrea, what gets me about Morgan Wallen is that these are all incidents. Each one of them is an incident that would derail a career, entirely derail a career. And yet, consistently, not only has he been in the Billboard top 10 for years, for albums that came out years ago, but consistently Nashville has had an inability to give up on Morgan Wallen. And so when an album comes out like this, yeah, he's got the right to continue to make music. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the machinery that sort of continues to bring Morgan to the top. Why do you think Nashville has a hard time giving up on Morgan Wallen?
First of all, Morgan Wallen makes Nashville a ton of money. I mean, you guys seem like perfectly reasonable people, and yet here we are talking about how much you love Morgan Wallen, right? So this is no longer just how do we target that core demographic or that core base that country music always goes after, that middle America, that Southern, that, quote unquote forgotten, as they would say, in this era of progress and DEI and all those things. We've spilled so far outside of that again, even folks like you guys are yeah, no, I can't let him go. So he's making a ton of money for the industry. Also, the things that we would talk about, this list that you just run down, these are not issues that his core base has a problem with. Again, if we go back to that 2021 record, that record does as well as it does, in fact, because of the N-word and because his fans are like, oh my gosh, please don't cancel him. So let's drive up the streams and let's push sales. And his own team has that, he and his team have admitted this, right? This is why he, this was part of the sort of apology tour and the let me cut some checks to some organizations, because he fully understood that the N-word actually pushed him into greater success. So country music, I think people outside of it tend to misunderstand how this industry works. And people tend to think about it from a traditional business perspective, in that we want to reach as wide an audience as possible. And so that means that we're going to have to toe certain lines. We're going to have to not do certain things. This is not how country music works. In the same way that Porsche is not going to all of a sudden sell a $50,000 car so they can reach more people. That's just not what they do.
Yeah.
Country music is like, this is who we are. This is who we service. And if we do get Elamin to jump on board, even though this guy says the N-word, then all for it, right?
Andrea, I'm not happy about it. I'm not happy about it.
and that is the thing, right? Because if they push him enough, then you will. And I don't want to, I said this before I even came on. Reminder, guys, I'm not a critic. I will not talk about the art. As an artist, I don't feel comfortable do that. I'm here to talk about the political and the cultural context. That being said, I'm from Kansas City. I was on your show before and we had a barbecue conversation. I'm from Kansas City. There's no better barbecue, right? But here in Nashville's not Kansas City in terms of the barbecue scene. And I found myself eating things here that I would never eat in Kansas City because I don't have access to the real thing. Again, this is not me saying that Morgan Wallen is not the real thing. What I'm saying is he has advantages, to your point about why Nashville won't let him go. He is in our faces and down our throats in a way other people could never dream of, right? And so it just further leads to the mystique and the appeal. And yeah, you put out a 37-track album 2 or 3 times, and now we're gaming the algorithms. And so he's just everywhere all over again. And so we sort of are pulled along on this train, even against, to you and Sarah's point, our better interests or our better minds to do so.
I think when you look at the space that Morgan is willing to take up in this moment, it's adversarial. Sarah, I feel like it's adversarial quite intentionally, to Andrea's point, because he has, I think, I mean, I don't know if he personally or the machine around him has, but he has seen the ways that positioning himself in that adversarial position in 2021, the idea that like, hey, everybody wants to cancel you for saying the N-word, rightfully, like, but radio stations were like, maybe we shouldn't play this guy. A few months later, they start playing him again. But since then, I feel like he has kind of gone a little bit out of his way to position himself as this outsider guy. And I think like we make the joke about God's country, but the incident there was that, he was on SNL and then he kind of like stormed off the stage as everybody was saying goodbye on SNL. And then he posted this, this photo of his private jet and the caption was, get me back to God's country. What do you make of that? Of him like sort of like actually actively now occupying this position of being like, I can't even be in New York longer than 7 seconds that I have to get me back to God's country. What do you make of him adopting that position that Andrea is saying as like a posture in the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, thinking about the SNL, because he had the opportunity for SNL, it was taken away from him. And so what does he do? He takes advantage of the opportunity this time around as he is being, and he kind of looks like an animal in headlights, like on this press tour, and he's doing weird press opportunities, like kind of side podcasts and, cozy Nashville opportunities. Yeah. But to walk off in the middle, whether that was innocent or not, as he says, like that was just the path I took. It's a way of him to be able to say, actually, screw you, right? Like you denied me that last time. And so it plays in absolutely perfectly with that kind of victim, if I'm the problem, you're the reason. It's the culture around country music criticism. It is all of that sort of what he would probably call political correctness, wokeness, that connection with that New York City scene or the cities trying to call the shots, when what he's really reveled in and has found a lot of success in is that, I'm a Southern country boy, I'm a redneck. His song, actually, I find interesting, the one that he did with Post Malone, I'm Not Coming Back, which is very heavy on the religious metaphor.
On the Jesus imagery?
Too heavy-handed on it, too heavy-handed on the Jesus imagery. Yeah. Also drops it on Good Friday. So and says in his little Spotify preview for it, I'm a Christian as often as I can get the Christianity in there. So I think also with this album going like leaning farther into that, because now that we do have Trump in office in the United States again, there are a lot of people using that inside voice on the outside, as they did in that first administration, but even more so as polarization continues, right? And so
especially in country music,
like a comfortability in that, right?
Yeah, I listen. We could truly talk about Morgan Wallen all day, so I'm gonna just try to move on. But before I do, my great frustration with Morgan Wallen is not the public posture; it's that he's unwilling to talk about it. What I would like is for him to answer some questions meaningfully about like how does he think about this stuff instead of all this telegraphing. Because at this point, come on, man, I think you do owe people an explanation if you keep sort of treading on this sort of stuff. That's my point.
That's what they do in national politics. They don't talk about politics.
I was gonna say, right? Does he owe anybody an explanation? Is it going to at all detract from how successful he is? I think not.
It's
I
not.
think
It's
so
not.
Why?
It's not an O. It's an I would like. Please, please,
All
someone make the rumor.
A request as a tourist in God's country.
Yes, the tourism request.
I just want to make sure that we get to the Maren Morris album. So I got to move on and get to an artist who has had a conflicting relationship with country. Let's hear a little bit more from Maren Morris.
I don't know what it is, but I like the flavor. Want you in my bed, 'cause I don't need more runs. Want that you come closer. Want you to push me over. Sitting on the bus, feels good between my legs. Want that you come closer. Want you to push me over.
Maren Morris, that song is called Push Me Over. It's from her new album, Dreamsicle. As you can hear there, it's not particularly country, right? It's a pop-oriented record made with people like Jack Antonoff and Julia Michaels. Carl, what do you make of this new direction for Maren Morris? She's sort of kind of like gone back and forth between country and pop. How's this album landing with you?
Yeah, I mean, that song is a bit misleading to the overall tone of the album, which is a lot sort of lower key than that song. And I think that's to the album's detriment in a way, because like when I heard that she was going to move pop, I thought back to her hit from like 7-8 years ago, The Middle, which she did with Zet and Gray, which was a huge pop song, right? Big dance pop song. And she's fantastic and vocally on that. But a lot of this album kind of falls, to use the term again, in the middle in a way that I find kind of mushy.
Okay.
And, it's sort of, there's a lot of synths on here that I kind of think those could be guitars and drums, and it would actually work better with the tone of the songs. The actual songs produced by Jack Antonoff on here, which are like only 2 or 3, escape that zone a little bit.
They do.
But a lot of it feels to me like almost like sort of AI level production, where it's just kind of an artificial version of the real thing rather than using the artificiality to advantage. So I'm
Carl's going in. Carl's like,
he's going right in on the systemic bits.
But I love Maren, and her voice is still great.
Big voice
on this record. So it's just an awkwardly transitional record. It feels like.
I'll come back to you in a moment, Bosie, but let me ask you, Andre, because you've been following Maren's career for some time. How does this pivot land with you? Does it feel kind of genuine as you listen to this record?
I am not here to speak on the art or the artist in terms of their artistic endeavors.
Yeah.
So if she wants to do it, then by all means do your thing. This is the right that we all have as artists.
Yeah.
I will say that to the mushy point, I do feel like that's a bit intentional, right? I feel like it's intentional that she won't just take the hard turn and slam the door on country music, because I don't know that she will be. I mean, you got to think about Maren coming out and saying, I've got these problems with this industry. Let's be clear, nobody's in country music and disillusioned by how this industry works. Nobody, especially not Maren Morris, is not the queen of the charts and then looking around and seeing no other women and being like, gosh, guys, I can't believe
a surprise.
that I'm the only woman who can actually do this, right? Like, we know what this industry is. At the same time, all of the Nashville girlies have been jockeying to be the next Taylor Swift for a very, very long time. And so it's this real clear desire to break out of it, because I think there is still, as authentic as it is, as much as there is this sense of like, this is the music I grew up with and want to do and where I feel called, and as a songwriter it resonates and all of that, there is this sense for people who, you know, are aware that, you know, there are problems here. And so there's that, I made the joke that, like, you know, everybody doesn't want to be embarrassed when they walk through LAX and people are like, oh, there's the country music girl, right? Like, what are they doing over
in the USA? Definitely not a Nashville party.
And you know what I'm saying? And so there is that sense of like, how can I break out of that? But also, which we saw with Casey, it's like, it might not land, right? Like, you can be a huge fish in that Nashville pond and not really be able to do the pop thing. And so I think she cracked that door and left it open enough that just in case this doesn't work out, I can always slip back in.
I take your point that everybody's trying to do the Taylor thing, because Taylor sort of like set a maybe new heights for the idea of crossing over from country to pop, and maybe landed it more successfully than anyone else, you know, thought maybe imaginable. But I do think, like, to me, Maren's sort of disillusionment with Nashville, or at least like half in, half out, feels genuine to me, Bosie. Like, I feel like there's something kind of like has been a consistent thread through her career of, even like when you think about like the first record, to like the idea of like, I drove circles around this town. Like, she's kind of like thinking through her relationship and her place in that town versus this larger ambition. And I think she is ambivalent. Like, I kind of buy that. Do you buy that?
Yeah, I mean, listening to both, I respect so much where you're coming from. I think I'm approaching it more as a fan who's followed her career from that very beginning when I heard My Church, and I'm just like, wow, who is this? They do sound different. They do sound like a bit of an innovator. And I mean, we don't talk about, like, we scrutinize women in this way so often, like, oh, leaving country music, moving to pop. And I mean, I don't think that I've really sort of felt that way about Maren. I think she's always kind of blazed her own trail. She's always used a bit more of an R&B influence, a little bit more of that sort of poppier tone and approach. And she has been getting out there and collaborating with much more pop acts, such as The Middle, a little ahead of the curve of some of the others, like a Kelsea Ballerini as well. And also, I just really admire her self-awareness and sense of self and standing in principle and kind of damn the consequences, because there have been consequences. She's following a trail blazed by the Chicks, right? And I mean, it's interesting to me as well that she chose to work with Jack Antonoff on a few of those songs,
because also the Chicks,
his work with the Chicks, right? And of course Taylor before. But I really admire her as a person, as an artist. She's taking a lot of risks. I mean, she had an EP, The Tree, that came out last year before this other EP, Intermission, which a few of these songs are now on the LP. And I just have followed that courage and that, you know, this is the side that I'm standing on. I'm standing for principle. I'm standing for equity. I'm over here with my privilege. And I know that the machine of Nashville's not going to support me in that. So I do need to blaze my own trail. So I really admire Maren, and I do like the record. I mean, am I as big a fan of these songs, even from Intermission, as I have been for a few of the previous records? I don't know that this is her, you know, standout record per se, to Carl's point and Andrea as well. But I admire it. And I think she's got a lot of courage standing out and being so vulnerable and talking about where she's coming from, you know, her relationship falling apart, her discovering or not discovering, but like coming out about her sexuality and being unapologetic about all of that. And also politically, I mean, she did sing at the Democratic National Convention when Kamala was running for president, and continues to stand up for others. So I respect Maren very much, and will keep spinning this record.
Carl, all that for sure.
Go ahead, Carl. Were you gonna add something there?
I'm just saying, like, definitely on those levels, I totally agree. It's kind of it's kind of following that to this kind of outcome of the narrative that we've been following, that I'm like, oh, okay, it turns out to be this. Let's keep watching and see what happens next.
First of all, I just want to say two things. One, it's not lost on me that between Maren Morris and Kelsea Ballerini, and I think Carly also had one, there's been a bunch of divorce albums coming out of Nashville, and like maybe some of the best music is on divorce albums coming out of Nashville. That is, I don't think that's accidental. There's a history of that, but also it's kind of an interesting moment of divorce albums.
Miranda Lambert, Weight of These Wings. That was the
Exactly,
best work.
exactly right. And two,
Divorce albums beat wedding albums 200 times out of 200.
but also I realized that we have not gotten a chance to talk about Lana Del Rey, and we are not going to miss that opportunity. So here's what we're going to do. On the YouTube stream, we're going to keep this conversation going. And also on the podcast, people will hear the longer version of this. But if you're listening on the radio, I got to let you go because we're just coming up at the bottom of the hour here. Andrea Williams is a columnist for the Tennessean in Nashville. Carl Wilson is a columnist for Slate in Toronto. Sarah Boesveld is a freelance writer also in Toronto. We've been talking about all things Nashville and the big stories in country music. This show is called Commotion. My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. We'll be back on the radio on Monday, and we will see you then. Okay, so we have talked about Maren, we have talked about Morgan, and now I would like to pivot. I would like to pivot to this big trend of people who are like, you know what? I should dabble in country music. Let's listen to this.
Let's go, hey, young, hang his head up on one. Tell him that his cowgirl is gone. Gone and kitty up south with the blue jeans. Call the center for his dreams. Return it, but say it was.
That is Henry Come On, the lead single of Lana Del Rey's new album, which just keeps changing in titles. I can't even keep track anymore, but the latest title, allegedly, is The Right Person Will Stay. It is supposed to come out May 21st, but the title has, but the date has been pushed around a whole bunch of times. It is, by all reports, heavily inspired by country music. Last month, she performed at Stagecoach, so she's trying to be like, hey, I got one foot in country. She did cover Tammy Wynette and a cover of John Denver. Sarah, I'll start with you on this one. You're a big country music fan, but you're not a Lana Del Rey girly. What do you make of her being like, you know what? Country music is the way.
Yeah, I just haven't spent time with Lana Del Rey. I mean, I remember video games when it first came up and then just kind of dropped off.
I'm
there.
like, wow, that was 15 years ago. Come back into the fold.
She said 10th studio album, and I was like, really? What is time? What happened?
Yeah.
But I did watch the Stagecoach performance. It felt like a lot of cosplay to me. And I don't know enough about Lana Del Rey to speak to authenticity, which I know gets to be like this complicated conversation in country music anyway, that's often a red herring for lots of other stuff. But to me, it didn't really land for me, except for a couple songs. She had a song that's unreleased about, when are you coming home, and should I light the house on fire? And I was like, that could be such an amazing song that I do believe really follows in a lot of the tradition of country music. The strings, the approach and the embrace of domesticity is interesting. Even on the Stagecoach stage, there was a house, and she sang "Stand by Your Man" by Tammy Wynette.
She did.
So I do think, and also just that Billy Sherrill production, and what Patsy Cline, that kind of cosmopolitan country, very Nashville sound, like she's bringing that in immensely, which are very obvious nods and appreciations. And she's working with Luke Laird and a few others that I think are really heavy hitters in country music in Nashville. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of it. Will it be as big a moment as Beyonce coming out with Cowboy Carter, which had much larger things to say about America, and had a lot of other contexts around it. It does feel dabbly to me and cosplay and experimentation rather than necessarily, but which is within an artist's right to do, experiment. Yeah. Advance your sound, explore. So, I will listen to it when it comes out, but her dreamy sound, I don't know that it's my favorite. I'll be over. I'm like,
that's if you don't like the dreamy sound, don't listen to any of the other Lana Del Rey albums. You're not gonna get into any of them because that's the zone that she kind of occupies. But Andrea, the thing that strikes me is that we are used to this going the other way, right? We're used to sort of seeing country stars being like, I need to get really big in the pop arena. That's the place where sort of where I can make it big. That sort of really matters to me. But then every once in a while, you get a major pop star who goes, you know what? I'm going to dip a little bit into country. And sometimes it can feel kind of authentic, and sometimes it can kind of feel a little bit put on. Lady Gaga and Joanne, not everybody bought that, for example. Beyonce and Cowboy Carter, I'm into it, but not everybody's into it. I think there's still this, every once in a while this happens. And actually, I just want to play you guys just a little bit of a taste of Chappell Roan's latest single. It's called The Giver. Let's hear it.
'Cause you ain't gotta tell me, it's just in my nature, so take it like a take
Okay, but Andrea, how does it feel when you see pop interlopers move into the country turf? Like, does it feel like a trend? And if it does it sort of start to feel like, what are they trying to telegraph when they say, I would like to adopt a country music sensibility? What is that trying to get at, you think?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, a little, I mean, I don't know. I'm in Nashville, so I come to it from that vantage, right? Being in Nashville, being on the ground here, knowing a lot of the players, knowing what's going on behind the scenes in the industry. The not so dirty secret is that a lot of people that we know only from country music only came to country music when it wouldn't work elsewhere. Okay, so that's number one. And that's facts.
That's real. That's real. Yeah.
There's also the reality that there has always been this sort of like, let me do this thing, to Beyonce's point of like, I grew up in Texas. This is in me. It's all I've ever wanted to do. Mm-hmm. But, because I am a Black artist, I got kind of shoehorned into this other.
Oh. Andrea, for some reason, I couldn't hear you there. Can you just talk one more time? Andrea? I think I might have lost Andrea. Carl and Sarah, do I still have you guys?
Oh my gosh, can you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Andrea's back.
You're back. Andrea,
I hope we're edited. I'm so sorry.
We're live, but don't worry about it. We're going to keep going. Pick up your point. So Beyonce saying, I'm born in Texas. I mean, it's in me anyway.
Tina Turner, Lionel Richie, like these people did country albums and nobody cared, but it was like, I feel truer to this than any other quote unquote R&B thing that everybody's trying to force me into. So that is a real thing. Mm-hmm. As far as like the current pop folks, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me, but again, I think much of it, there are positives to this, right? Like country music is still the place where you can come in and most of your studio sessions will be live. The instrumentation is real. The songwriting is real. Like that is attractive to a lot of people. I think also there is that, like, I'm kind of looking over into Nashville, what's going on over there? Because you're making a lot of money and people really like it and people are coming to all the shows. And like, there's something weird going on because there are like no Black people anywhere, not artists, not musicians, not songwriters or producers. There's also not a lot of women, but maybe it's just because you need someone like me. There's not women over there because no one's as smart as me and no one's as talented as me. So let me give it a go because again, there is this super solid foundation in country music that I can rock with, I can vibe with. I had I'm thinking about Ryan Coogler, who's like, I didn't think blues was for me, but I grew up with this uncle who was like, that was all he played. And I listened to these stories and now I have sinners, right? And so I think there are, for a lot of folks, whether you grew up listening to the Grand Ole Opry or not, there is still that connection that when it comes down to it and I've kind of tried this thing and done really well at it, and I want to flex my creative muscle. This might be a thing to kind of step over into. Also, it doesn't hurt that the songwriting and the musicianship is great and the fans are really loyal.
Yeah. That's what Chapel was talking about too. Like she's done interviews talking about being a Midwestern girl. This is who she is too.
Yeah.
Like other large artists.
They sort of like exist in this universe. It's authentic to them. It's not and it also provides all those benefits that you're talking about. But then when you get somebody like Lana Del Rey visiting, Carl, I think it can raise a question of saying, one, where is your claim to this, right? Like what's your relationship to this? Why do you come to this? Because like when I think about Lana Del Rey, I think she's a torch singer who has lost her time machine, and she is like really trying to get back to a time when she was Jackie O, and that it seems to be inaccessible to her. But now the idea that she's pivoting to country music. The space that her voice occupies from the songs that we have heard, it doesn't feel immediately like not Lana to me. What do you make of the pivot that she's making into country music?
I mean, this is complex because these authenticity questions come up, and in a lot of cases, whether people are trying to make a career move towards Nashville or are going back to roots on some level, those questions come into it. Lana is in an entirely different universe. I don't think. She's like everybody else. She's looking at the amount of money Morgan Wallen's making and thinking, pop country crossover is having a moment. There's definitely that going on. Yeah. But Lana Del Rey is entirely and always has been cosplay. That's what she's about. She's a, you know,
There
she's
you
in the
go.
That's
She's
the
in
premise.
the-
That's the very premise of actually
Yeah,
the
that's
persona.
the premise.
Yeah.
She's in the David Bowie tradition. You know, it's like these are personae, and that's what showbiz is.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put these costumes on and make this music. A lot of her music is already very rooted in like 70s singer-songwriter, Laurel Canyon,
Yes.
country rock related sounds. So all you have to do is put either a Countrypolitan string section or like a pedal steel on these songs, and they sound country, right? And her voice is really malleable that way as well. You know, whether it's satisfying to you and what you're looking for in country music, it's Lana Del Rey music with a country accent. And that's all that she's going to do. The only thing I would say about the moment of it that I find like kind of endearing is, you know, you realize that she's just married an alligator tour guy.
This is my favorite
Right?
thing, Carl.
So,
Go in,
so
Carl.
like, why the hell not make a country album when that's your life, right? It's like, go for it.
I forgot
She's
all
in the
about that.
swamps, like chasing gators. Oh my God, I do adore that.
I like that you guys like went around and be like, oh well, hang on. Now she does have a claim to this. She's married into country music, if you will, and that's how we got here. Also, I will say it's not lost on anybody that one of the things that she revealed as stagecoach is that she had that song that she debuted where she talked about kissing Morgan Wallen. It all comes back in a circle. And
Yeah, although she also said that she was never going to sing that line again, so it seemed like a
The
little. bit of
internet
a
is
cheeky
forever,
wink.
Carl. She's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
gonna, it's
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
get recycled and
it was a
Rehashed.
stunt, but also, well,
Yeah.
we don't know if it was a stunt, but it sure felt like a stunt. It was kind of like, okay, if it was a stunt, it did its job because I keep walking around with that memory in my head. Okay, we got to leave it there on Lana. We've left it there on Maren. We've left it there on Morgan Wallen. And what I'd like to do is pivot to recommendations. I'd like each of you to just give me a quick recommendation going into this weekend. Maybe Sarah, I'll start with you. 30 seconds. What should I do? What should I consume?
Well, I just finished reading Blink-182 bassist singer Mark Hoppus's memoir. It's called Fahrenheit 182, and I'm a pop punk kid from the early 2000s. So to me, I just really enjoyed it as an escapist kind of throwback. So I guess I'm recommending pop punk nostalgia.
Nice.
Avril Lavigne and Simple Plan also put out a song.
They're about to go on tour.
They're going to go on tour. And again, it's like I love how self-aware they are about the conceit of it. It's just like, yep, this is stuff from 20 years ago. Let's just dive back in. And they even have in this song they just put out called, Young and Dumb or something. I'm not even getting the name right of it. But they are just talking about returning to that time. And Avril's got a greatest hits tour. And I just think it's fun. I mean, my daughter, quite by accident, thanks to the algorithm in the car this past weekend, heard "I'm With You" by Avril, and also in that other song, she name drops Napanee, so I love that.
She
as
does.
well,
She sure does.
Yes, she does. And so my daughter now demands that song "I'm With You" over and over again. So I'm just like, we're gonna lean into Avril and like the pop punk feel in my household this weekend.
Your daughter's
probably
got
just because
taste.
of her
I like that.
incessant demands.
I
She's
like that
3.
about your daughter.
Yeah,
Andrea,
I do like that too.
Andrea, what about you? Some recommendation real quick before we go.
Yeah, Miko Marks, who I love.
Yes.
As an artist, I think her voice is just bananas. That is as close as I will get to being a critic. Carl, thank you. But
Her voice is bananas.
Her voice is bananas,
That's real.
and she's such a great, like, sweet soul. And she put out a new song, "Let the Music Get Down in Your Soul," I think a couple weeks ago. And I recommend that, but also just like all of these folks, again, going back to my sort of barbecue Morgan Wallen analogy, I do think part of why we love Morgan is, and I'm saying we globally, not me.
You're like, I'll over there, you, me over there.
Leave me out of this. It's the royal we. It's a y'all. It's a y'all for sure. It's a why y'all love Morgan. I got it. I heard and respected. Got it.
But he has the privilege of being pushed forward and weathering some of these storms. And again, there are folks for whom the movement has not started, as I so often like to say. So as we talk about all the country music, just considering the folks who never had a shot, had a quarter of a shot, who had to make $1 out of 15 cents. I'm recommending all those folks and starting with my girl Miko.
I gotta say, Miko Marks, her cover of "Long as I Can See the Light" is truly just like a divine piece of music. If anybody wants just like a starting point, that cover of that song is like, that's the definitive version of that song for me. Just begin there. Carl, what about you, pal? Last word to you. What do you got?
Well, I'm going to stick in the country realm, but go a little bit of a left turn with my nominee for most surprising cover version of the month. And that is the final track on Eric Church's new album, which is a cover of Clap Hands by Tom Waits.
Whoa. Okay.
Oh, Eric Church.
I love Clap
from the
Hands.
Rain
Great song.
Dogs album in the mid 80s.
Yeah.
So a 40-year-old song that at the time was all composed of marimba strikes mostly and a weird avant-garde jazz guitar solo in the
And a
middle
growl.
of Tom Waits growling these kind of sinister nursery rhyme lyrics over top of it.
Yeah.
And on this 8-track album, Evangeline versus the Machine, that Church has put out this month, he kind of, I think he rearranges it with some orchestration and some gospel vocals and gives it a whole different feel. But I think it's there to symbolize the album is kind of themed around defending creativity against, the machine, whatever Eric Church happens to mean by that, which one can't be entirely sure. And it's there as that gesture. Eric Church is such an interestingly inconsistent, sometimes kind of heroic, sometimes kind of letting you down guy. But I have to say, I really smiled when I ran across this track, and it kind of made my week.
I got to tell you, with Eric Church, I am always sensitive to the fact that everything he does is to sort of telegraph this sort of high above it authenticity. I'm on another planet. And so the idea that he would cover Tom Waits perfectly tracks. So I'm on board before I even hear the song. I'm like, yes, I'm in. Let's go. Let's do this. I got to say thank you to all of you. This has been a tremendous conversation. I really appreciate you and your time. Thank you for being here. You guys are the best. Thanks again.
Thanks so much.
Yeah,
Have a great
of
week,
course.
everyone.
Talk to you soon. Thank you again. Andre Williams is a columnist for The Tennessean in Nashville. Carl Wilson is a columnist for Slate in Toronto. And Sarah Boesveld is a freelance writer also in Toronto. My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This show is called Commotion. We will be back on Monday. We would love to see you then. I think it's going to be a great time. See you then.